ニューヨークメッツ本拠地シティフィールドで行われたドジャース対メッツの NLCS 第5戦ですが、今日は先発のフラハティ投手が打ち込まれ炎上し、12対6でメッツの勝利となりました。日本時間で土曜日の朝6時過ぎにプレーボールということで、早起きしてみた方もたくさんいらっしゃるとは思いますが、残念ながら今日で決めてワールドシリーズ進出とはいきませんでしたね。フラハティ投手は初回からボールが走らず、コントロールを乱し、3回で8失点という炎上っぷり。今日はフラハティ投手をなぜ2回の段階で変えなかったのかと、大谷翔平選手の初回の走塁について現地放送で議論というか批判が巻き起こっておりましたので、今日はその様子を翻訳してお届けいたします。このチャンネルでは日本人メジャーリーガーに関する現地放送局の様子を翻訳してお届けいたします。お見逃しのないよう今のうちにチャンネル登録をお願いいたします。
Hello, welcome to Access Sportsnet Dodgers. John Hartung here alongside Jerry Hairston Jr., Nomar Garciaparra. The Dodgers not able to close the deal in this NLCS back there at Citi Field in New York, so they're going to hop on a plane, make the long flight back here to Los Angeles, not to get ready for the World Series. Instead, they'll be getting ready for a Game 6 at Dodger Stadium on Sunday. This one got ugly early, Jerry. Jack Flaherty tagged for 8 runs in the first 3 innings. Dodgers tried to catch up with some offense, just wasn't enough.
Yeah, obviously Jack Flaherty did not have his A game today. He didn't really have velocity, really had a hard time finding the strike zone. He made a mistake to the pull a bear, threw on a homer. Just didn't have his stuff tonight. But again, Dodgers had an opportunity in that first inning to cash in. I really believe we get 1 run. I think the Mets may start thinking, man, here we go again. We didn't score in that first inning. I really think the Mets really got momentum there.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jerry. You know, obviously they had an opportunity. I think, you know, we were wondering why Shohei didn't score on that ground ball to the shortstop. I mean, that was one where, and we hear Dave Roberts in the middle of the game just talking about how, yeah, he just missed it. He should have scored on that one, whatever reason, and the Dodgers still had opportunity after that and could not come in. They hit a hard ball, but definitely momentum kind of felt there and shifted. But regardless, Flaherty didn't have it. I think the question will be, it'll be really interesting to see who Dave Roberts kind of had available to him. You know, when your starter doesn't have it, who is available in the bullpen when you start wondering, okay, early on you recognize that he was really struggling. He was laboring out there, didn't really have swing and miss stuff. They were all over everything. There was no really good sharp break to any of his breaking ball, and to see maybe who he had maybe even earlier prior to that 3rd inning, because we know the Dodgers offense, you know, they have been rolling, and they still did. We always talk about 10-5. Well, they got nine hits and 6 runs, so they definitely put some runs up. Unfortunately, they were always trying to catch up, and, you know, the Mets just took it to them today.
You know, Nomar makes a great point. Listen, Dave Roberts has done an incredible job. In my opinion, this has been his best season as a manager. He's done an incredible job, and he's going to be asked, I think he knows this, he's going to be asked during the presser, you know, why didn't you go to someone a little earlier? And Nomar made a great point. You knew right away in that first inning, Jack Flaherty didn't have his great stuff. And then as a guy you're looking, and Dave Roberts is looking, in that 2nd inning, okay, is he able to snap out of it? He was able to get out of that 2nd inning unscathed, but he didn't look that sharp. So we come back, it's 3-1. Okay, now you're looking at the game. In the 3rd inning, you got to think, okay, here comes the polar bear again. Walk. As soon as he walks Pete Alonso, I thought he would get somebody up right away. Remember, it's a 2-run game at that point in the 3rd inning. I know that our bullpen has been used, but you got to understand, too, you have the day off. Now, if this was Game 3 or Game 4, when you have back-to-back-to-back days, totally understand that. But you have the day off tomorrow.
And Jerry, they hadn't been used all that much the first 2 games because they were blowouts.
Right here, you get somebody up. Immediately get somebody
Or you should have had somebody warming up, preparing that, and saying, okay, if he gets on, how it is, rather than, because now you're going to ask somebody to come into the bullpen with those 2. But I agree with you, right? Somebody's had to be either up prior to that because he didn't have it, or at least getting loose, and then waiting and trying to just kind of stifle this before it gets out of control.
Give them another look. That's all I'm asking, especially with our offense. Now, if our offense hasn't been rolling the last couple nights, we haven't swung the bat, maybe you think, okay, we're not swinging it right now. We may need to kind of punt this game. With our offense, stifle them a little bit. Hold them at 4 or 5 runs. Give them a different look and allow our offense maybe to come back, because our offense has proven, especially in that ballpark, that we can score runs in bunches. That I just was a little bit puzzled by
absolutely.
that. And I'm sure he's going to be asked that in that press conference.
Yeah, because when you look at it, you're going, okay, we know they have 4 guys that they're really high leverage guys. And then you have other guys that, that kind of come in and you're feeling it, okay, with those innings. And there's probably a couple guys that he say, listen, I really would like to stay away from a couple of these guys from a high leverage standpoint and say, okay, so now you have 2 there and you're probably maybe looking, okay, I might need them to the back end of this game. I'm just throwing hypothetical because we know some of these guys didn't throw and there's some days off here and there. But obviously we don't know the whole story of feeling like, oh, they had a day off. They must be ready. I mean, they got some. It doesn't always work that way. Some guys may just need a couple days, whatever they're dealing with, end of the season, ailments, whatever it may be. We're not privy to that information. But Dave Roberts knows what he has available. And then you also always wonder what the game plan was in case Flaherty just doesn't have it. I think that was really the question that we're just going, okay, if you noticed early on that Flaherty didn't have it, who was the guy, maybe your long guy, whatever it may be. Maybe it was, whether it was Landon Knack, for example, that we've seen in Game 2. Was Van Kasperius available? Maybe not because he pitched a couple innings. When you're trying to think of who do you have, because I know going into this, we all want to say, hey, you have this incredible bullpen, keep throwing them, keep throwing them, keep throwing them. But availability, and then you also have to think as a manager is, okay, I need somebody to give me 2 to 3 innings at the very least. At the very least, so who is that guy in case he is struggling? That's all. By the way, Honeywell, outstanding job. Honeywell, incredible, even in a game like this, really sets up for next game. So we'll see how next game goes out, but Honeywell was big today.
Yeah, we got to make sure, too, you never know. There could be a couple guys in that bullpen that are down, and I'm sure manager Dave Roberts will address that. But once again, maybe you bring in a Daniel Hudson to face a Marte in that situation, maybe get him to pop up or something. I just think when it's close like that, the game is still in balance. Just give them another look. But it just didn't happen. And listen, this is the Mets, a good team, man. You knew they weren't going to give up. You knew they were going to come out fighting because their season was on the line. And then once they got rolling, that energy, that crowd really lifted them.
And the Dodgers were the team that came into Game 5. They were the team that was really rolling, Nomar. They had all this momentum, 2 blowout wins. And then you guys talked about the top of the first inning. Shohei with a single. Mookie Betts gets on with that double. And you're thinking, here they come again. And then this whole thing just fizzles.
It really did. But you know what? John, they still, actually from the offensive side, and we're talking about the momentum, right? We're talking about more momentum from the offensive side because of the runs they've been putting up. Yes, the pitching has been outstanding too. I get that. But when we talk about that momentum, hey, trying to score early, they definitely had the opportunity, and this was lost, like right here. That one, Shohei had to score right there. Getting 1 run, I think, would have just been huge. As Jerry mentioned, like, oh, here we go again. And then when you get out of it and give no runs, wow, that is such a boost. Your crowd is into it. Your team is into it. Like, hey, this is ours, guys. Let's go get them. So it's a definitely different feel. I think that run was pretty big. But nonetheless, despite that, they still were able to come back there. The offense didn't die. The offense just didn't roll over. Yeah, when you look at it, there were a few guys still swinging it, but they still managed to score 6 runs in this game. A little bit different because obviously, you know, they're going to be challenging. They're not going to try to walk anybody. I get that because they have a cushion. That also affects it. But nonetheless, they're still there. The offense is there. Their pitching, it just wasn't there today. That's simple as that. And they got back too much to really try to peck away. They couldn't do it.
Jerry, that first inning, I want to get your take on Shohei Otani at third base. And clearly he's aware, and Dino Ebel's aware, that up the middle, they're playing deep. And so on a ground ball, he's got to score there, right?
First of all, let's not put this on Dino Ebel.
Right.
Okay.
But he's letting Shohei know, that letting him know that where the offense, where the guys
Dino
are.
Ebel,
Right.
but even as a base runner, you see, you have the third baseman literally right next to me. So anything hit hard to him, I'm not going. Anything back to the pitcher, I'm not going. But everywhere else, first base, second, shortstop, first Francisco Lindor, you know this no more as a shortstop in the first inning. If I get a ball at short, deep short, I'm not going to throw Shohei Otani out at home. I got to get the out because we're trying to stay away from a big inning. Honestly, maybe Shohei, I think he was caught off guard. It was first pitch swinging. He may have been putting on his glove or his guard or something. He was not up the line. I think the bag, he was, a foot or 2 off the bag. He didn't have an aggressive lead. And I think maybe he lost the ball or something. But I think Shohei Otani understands 100% of the time, you have to go because the defense is conceding that run. You got to be able to score.
Yeah, even if they happen to try and they make an incredible play and get you out at home, that's what it's gonna take to get you out, and it's Shohei. But Jerry's right. You're
There's
already
no way.
thinking as an infielder. You're like, I'm
way.
back. I'm thinking one. I'm staying out of the big inning. And it's Shohei Otani. Like, you already know the guy's speed. You already recognize, you already calculated that, like, well, they got a fast guy there. Even if it's hard to hit one hopper, I still probably am not gonna really good. It's going to take something pretty special. So I'm thinking of one. So, yeah, definitely a huge missed opportunity. Dave Roberts talked about it in the middle of the game. It was a missed opportunity there. You know what? That happens. And but once again, despite that, you know, that was in the first inning. It was early in the game. There was still a lot of ball game left, and there were still other ways to either get back into this game or try to make this game something else. Obviously, that didn't happen.
The only thing I can think of, maybe there was some type of glare. He didn't see the ball great off the bat. That has happened to me early in the ball game, the first inning, you know, twilight, 5 o'clock game there on the East Coast. Sometimes you just don't see the ball off the bat that well. Maybe he thought it was back to the pitcher or something. But again, listen, I'm sure Shohei will address it. But once again, you got to take advantage of the opportunities. Now, the Mets have a little momentum going back here to LA, but the Dodgers have proven this whole year, they come back with a vengeance.
Go ahead.
What you see out of Flaherty, and what went into the decision to leave him in as long as you did in that third inning?
He wasn't sharp, clearly. He was, you know, he's been fighting something. He's been under the weather a little bit. So I don't know if that bled into the stuff, the velocity. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Jack. You know, right there, you know, looking at the game, we have 5 leverage innings. And so a couple guys were down, Caspias and Henriquez. So you've essentially got 5 leverage innings. And you're talking about we're down 3-1 at the time. And, you know, you can't cover the game with leverage and being down. So you're trying to get some outs, and after the walks in that third inning, and then Marte, you know, you're still at that point trying to cover 7 innings. And so he gives up the double, and then so for me at 5-1, I'm not going to deploy our leverage guys knowing that there's a cost in the back end, and appreciating the fact that there's still more baseball to play in the series. So you've got to those are thoughts that went through my head, but I think for me, you know, I have 5 leverage guys that I wanted to make sure that, you know, you got to deploy at the right time.
Dylan?
Dave, it's a situation one basically, you know, given like how the limited number of innings you've been getting out of your starters, the limited number of, again, it's leveraged relievers, that you can't use any of those guys basically if you're not ahead or maybe tied.
It's not always fun when you're going through it. Certainly from anyone's chair, certainly my chair, but you have to kind of remain steadfast in how you use your pitchers, because ultimately it's about winning 4 games in a 7-game series. And so when you're careless, then it'll show itself at some point, certainly in a long series. So in that point, you know, with our leverage guys, mainly Blake and Evan, it's just not responsible in that point of the game for me. And so Honeywell did a fantastic job saving everyone and knowing we've got a bullpen game coming up in Game 6 as well. So there's that part of it too.
Pages, how encouraging was it to see that? And I think Mania got him a couple times, struck him out a couple times last time, but do you expect him to be in the lineup in Game 6 after?
I expect him to be in there, and he took great at-bats. So I think for us, obviously, seeing all their guys, it was a must-win for them. Getting those guys extended, Diaz in there for 2 innings, all that stuff certainly matters. But obviously, you know, with Andy, his game allowed for Peterson to go a little bit shorter, which was great.
Andy?
Dave, just jumping on Dylan's earlier question, I mean, you know what your offense is capable of. You know how their bullpen is a bit short. Like, how painful was it for you to have to maintain that discipline tonight?
It's tough, and I can't. I wish I can predict Andy's going to hit 2 homers tonight. You know, but if you can kind of think through the game as I do. You know, left with 3 innings potentially of low leverage guys, you're still in a position, and you're not certain how the game's going to play out. But you do know that there's a cost for the ensuing games. So I think those are bets that I got to make and watch the game. But it was good to see our guys fight back. Certainly offensively, we're in a really good spot.
Bill, down here in the front.
Dave, I want to ask what you're seeing out of Freddie, and given he's trying so hard, but is there a thought that maybe at this point it's just not as effective as he'd like it to be, and he might have to sit out for Game 6?
I'm going to have a conversation with him tomorrow, but I do think that his swing is not right, and I'm certain it's the ankle. So, we'll have that conversation, but it's certainly an option to not have him in there for Game 6, yes.
We'll do two more, Jay, on the middle aisle, and then we'll finish with Pete.
Yeah, it seemed like there were a couple plays there in the early innings where Mookie Betts was having a bit of an adventure out in right field. Thinking the Lindor triple and the Winker hit. Did you see anything that was off about those?
I thought on the one, I thought it should have been a glove play, and I think he tried to barehand it, took his eye off the ball, which allowed for one of those guys to score instead of securing it, getting the ball in the infield. I don't recall the other one exactly, but he's as good as they get out in right field. But certainly, I know the barehand play that's got to be made cleanly and getting back into the infield for sure.
We'll finish up with Pete in the middle on the left side.
Dave, you talked this morning about the importance of scoring first. It looked like in the first inning you had it set up the way you wanted it.
We did. Infield back, corners in. That's a situation that, Shohei's got to go on the ball in the middle of the infield. And I think he just locked up there. And, it's no excuse. But I do think that there's some momentum part of it where, they ended up getting out of that first inning and allowed to build some momentum as opposed to, getting a 1-0 lead in the top of the first.
NLCS now back here in Los Angeles for Game 6. The Dodgers are going to throw a bullpen game against the Mets left-hander Sean Manaea on Sunday. The Dodgers threw a successful bullpen game, Game 4 against the Padres in the division series. Jerry wasn't as successful, though, in Game 2 against the Mets. So how can they get this thing right for Game 6?
I think throw a little bit different plan like they did in Game 2. Yes, they're going to have an opener. Maybe the opener goes a little bit longer. And maybe have your high-leverage guys earlier in the game. Once again, these guys are used to playing these type of games. And most importantly, though, offense. Continue swinging the bat. Should be a fun environment. Game 6, Dodger Stadium.
Well, we hear Dave Roberts talk about scoring early has been a factor. The Dodgers had an opportunity. They didn't do it. So I think in the next game with the opener and with the bullpen, shutting them down early is going to be important. And then you're facing a guy who shut you down offensively. Right. So if you're able to score early, I think that also changes things. And I also think it changes the way Dave Roberts deploys his pitchers.
All right, turn the page, come home, take care of business in Game 6. For Jerry, Nomar, and Kirsten, I'm John. Thanks for watching. We'll see you Sunday. Pre-game 4 o'clock from the Ravine here on Sportsnet 11.
今日は多分、大谷翔平選手にとってはメジャーに来てから一番怒られた日になったのではないでしょうか。試合中でも監督にメディアを通じて言われ、試合後でも番組で取り上げられ、ツイッターでも叩かれまくるという散々な日だったと思います。確かに初回の内野ゴロは突っ込めるタイミングだったと思いますし、あそこで1点を取っていれば流れを引き寄せられたかもしれませんが、そうは言ってもフラハテ投手の崩れ方がそのまま来ていたら、たとえ大谷選手がホームに帰っていたとしても勝つことは難しかったのではないでしょうか。しかし、考え方を変えれば、今シーズンのドジャースの試合が増えたとの見方もできるので、私もそうですし、皆さんの楽しみが増えたとも言えますね。第6戦はロサンゼルスに帰り、宿敵マナーや投手との再戦となりそうですが、果たしてドジャースは勝ってワールドシリーズ進出を決めるのか、それともメッツが望みをつなぎ、第7戦までも連れ込むのか、注目していきましょう。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。